My life had always been a race against time, a constant battle where every penny counted, and every decision could mean the difference between eating or going hungry. At 26, I carried the weight of two lives on my shoulders, mine and Kai's, my 10-year-old younger brother, who was born with cognitive disabilities and needed special care that the public system simply couldn't provide. On that Tuesday morning, as I tied my apron at the Golden Bean coffee shop in downtown Los Angeles, I had no idea that my life was about to be turned upside down. The place was on the ground floor of a busy commercial building, and I knew every regular customer, every special order, every generous tip that made a difference at the end of the month. It was my third job. I worked there from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., and then rushed to a clothing store until 9, and on weekends I cleaned apartments in Echo Park. Money was always tight. After paying rent for our small apartment on the east side, basic bills, Kai's medication, and his special school, there were only crumbs left for food. I had learned to make miracles with simple, cheap meals, and Kai never complained. He would smile with those clear, innocent eyes, thank me for everything, and that gave me the strength to keep fighting against a world that seemed determined to crush us. Around 10:30, when the morning rush began to slow, she walked in. An elegant woman, approximately 40 years old, wearing an impeccable gray pantsuit and carrying a handbag that I was sure cost more than I made in 3 months. Her dark hair was pulled back in a sophisticated bun, and she wore sunglasses despite being indoors. Something about her posture indicated that she wasn't a common customer. There was a silent authority in her movements, a confidence that only comes with power and money. She chose a table in the corner, from where she had a full view of the room, and when I approached to take her order, I felt her gaze analyzing me in a way that made me uncomfortable. It wasn't the typical look of evaluation that some customers gave. It was something more intense, almost scientific, as if she were registering every detail of my face, my posture, my way of speaking. "An espresso, please," she said with an accent I couldn't quite place. As I prepared the coffee, I felt her eyes following me. It was unsettling, but I needed this job. So I maintained my professionalism and delivered the drink with a polite smile. She thanked me, paid with a $50 bill, a generous tip for an $8 coffee, and stayed there for over an hour, messing with her phone and occasionally watching me. When she finally got up to leave, she stopped next to me and said something that would not leave my head for the rest of the day. "You have a very interesting face. Did you know that?" The rest of the day passed in a strange haze. During the ride to pick up Kai from school, my mind constantly returned to that mysterious woman. There was something in her look that told me our meeting had not been casual. When it was time to pick up Kai from school, my brother came running toward me with that bright smile that always melted my heart, holding a drawing he had made in art class. It was a colorful house with 2 figures in front, me and him, and a giant sun in the sky.
Just to make sure you keep getting our stories, subscribe to the channel, give this one a like too, and tell me in the comments where in the world you're listening from.
"Rachel, look what I made. It's us in our new house," he said, proudly handing me the paper. My heart ached. How do you explain to a 10-year-old that dreams don't pay bills? That night, after helping Kai with his homework, preparing a simple dinner, and putting him to bed, I stayed up looking at the ceiling and replaying every detail of that brief but impactful conversation. As sleep finally came, one last sensation overcame me, the absolute certainty that nothing would ever be the same again. The next morning, I arrived at work with a strange feeling in my chest, as if my heart knew something my mind had yet to process. The same elegant woman from the day before appeared again, but this time there was a determination in her steps that wasn't present at our previous meeting. She went directly to the counter without hesitation or choosing a table, and stared at me with an intensity that made my breathing quicken. Today, she wasn't wearing sunglasses, and I could see her eyes. They were deep brown and carried a sharp intelligence. "I need to talk to you," she said without beating around the bush. "It's about a job, a very well-paid job." "Ma'am, I already have 3 jobs. I don't know if I could fit in another one." $500,000, she interrupted, lowering her voice, "in cash, for 3 days of work." For a moment, I thought I had misheard. $500,000? The number echoed in my mind as if it were from another planet. It was more money than I could earn in several lifetimes working as a waitress. "What exactly do you want me to do?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady despite my racing heart. My name is Lena, she said, leaning slightly over the counter, and I represent very influential people, people who have a problem that only you can solve. Have you ever heard of Sheikh Omar Al-Zahir? The name didn't mean anything to me, but I nodded anyway. He is one of the richest men in the Middle East, and in 3 days, he will marry a woman named Nora Al-Mansouri, sealing an alliance between two of the most powerful families in the region. My confusion only grew. What did any of this have to do with me? The problem, Lena continued, lowering her voice even more, is that Nora has disappeared. She just vanished. And the wedding cannot be canceled. There are billions of dollars in contracts, international agreements, and reputations at stake. My stomach began to churn as I realized where this conversation was going. I saw you yesterday and could hardly believe it. It's incredible. You are practically identical to Nora. With the right clothes, the correct hairstyle, the proper makeup. She paused dramatically. No one would know the difference. Are you suggesting that I couldn't finish the sentence. That you marry Sheikh Omar Al-Zahir in Nora's place, just for 3 days. Enough time for the legal documents to be signed, the official photos to be taken, the press to be satisfied. After that, you simply disappear, and you get $500,000 for your performance. The world around me seemed to stop. It was impossible. It was crazy. It was too tempting to ignore. Lena took a card from her handbag and placed it on the counter. Think about it, but don't take too long. We only have 2 days to prepare you, and every hour counts. She turned to leave but stopped and looked over her shoulder. By the way, Rachel, yes, I know your name. I know about Kai. I know about your 3 jobs. I know about the overdue bills and the treatment your brother needs, but you can't afford. $500,000 would solve all those problems, wouldn't it? The rest of the day passed in a blur. Every time I thought about Kai sleeping on that uncomfortable sofa, every time I remembered the list of expensive medications he needed, every time I visualized his smile upon discovering that we would finally have a real home. When it was time to leave, I picked up my phone and dialed the number on the card. Meet me tomorrow at 6 p.m. in the lobby of the Beverly Hills Hotel, Lena said. Starting tomorrow, you will begin your transformation into Nora Al-Mansouri. That night, I observed every detail of Kai's innocent face. Deep in my heart, I already knew I was going to accept the proposal. As insane as it was the only chance I would have to give my brother the life he deserved. The next morning, after explaining to Kai that I would have to travel for a temporary job, a black sedan picked me up at exactly 10 o'clock. Lena looked impeccable as always. Ready? She asked as we got into the car. No, I replied honestly. But we're going to do this anyway. In the lobby of the Beverly Hills Hotel the night before, I had officially accepted the proposal, with my conditions: half the money in advance, legal guarantees, and financial protection for Kai in case something happened to me. The first stop was an exclusive salon in Malibu. For the next 4 hours, I was completely transformed. My hair was cut, colored, and styled into sophisticated waves. My skin was treated with expensive products. My makeup was applied with surgical precision. When the makeup artist finally turned me to face the mirror, I almost didn't recognize the person staring back at me. It was Nora Al-Mansouri. C'est incroyable. It's like magic, the French makeup artist murmured. The next 2 hours were a whirlwind of luxury boutiques where Lena selected outfits that cost more than I made in a year. Evening gowns, designer casual wear, silk lingerie, shoes that were clearly works of art. Remember, Lena said as I tried on my wedding dress, Nora grew up with these things. For her, luxury is normal, expected. You can't act impressed or overwhelmed. In the afternoon, we arrived at the hotel where I would stay until the wedding, a presidential suite complete with a personal butler. For the next few hours, it was intensive training: how to walk with perfect posture, how to hold a teacup properly, basic greetings in Arabic. Omar Al-Zahir, Lena explained as she showed me photographs, is 32 years old, educated at Oxford and Harvard. He is known for being intelligent and reserved. This marriage is primarily an alliance between families, not a love story. He expects a wife who is elegant, helpful, and discreet. Looking at his photographs, I had to admit he was handsome in an almost intimidating way. Dark hair, a strong jawline, eyes that seemed to see everything. That night, alone in my luxurious suite, I called to check on Kai. Ms. Carmen assured me he was fine. After hanging up, I looked out the window at the ocean that shimmered under the moonlight. As I prepared for bed, a small voice in my head whispered a dangerous question. What if 3 days weren't enough time to just pretend? What if I ended up wanting more than just the money? I pushed that dangerous thought away. This was business, nothing more. But deep down, I already knew that nothing about this situation would be simple. The day of my fake wedding arrived with a spectacular sunrise. My phone rang at 5 in the morning. Lena, ensuring I was ready to begin the most important performance of my life. "Today is the day," she said. "Remember everything we practiced. You are Nora Al-Mansouri. You have been waiting for this day your entire life." The final preparation session was held in a private villa overlooking the ocean. A team of professionals worked on me as if I were a work of art being prepared for an exhibition. My wedding dress was a masterpiece, hand-woven silk from France, embroidered with pearls. At 5 p.m., 1 hour before the ceremony, I was finally alone in the bride's suite when there was a soft knock on the door. "Come in," I called, expecting Lena. Instead, a man entered, tall, impeccably dressed, with dark hair and eyes that seemed to see right through me. Seeing Omar Al-Zahir in person was a shock. He was more imposing than the photos suggested. "Nora," he said, his voice deep and controlled, "I hope you don't mind me visiting before the ceremony. I wanted to speak with you privately." My heart pounded, but I forced myself to remain calm. "Of course. I want you to know that I understand this is not exactly the wedding either of us dreamed of when we were children. Our families arranged this for political and financial reasons. I don't expect romance or passionate love. I do hope, however, that we can build mutual respect and perhaps eventually a genuine friendship." Yes, I hope the same thing," I managed to say. He studied me carefully. "You seem different today. More contemplative than usual." My blood ran cold. "Wedding day nerves, I suppose." "Of course." He moved closer. "Nora, I want you to know that while this may be an arranged marriage, I will treat you with respect and kindness." There was a gentleness in his voice that I hadn't expected. Omar was described as cold and calculating, but the man in front of me seemed different, more human. He took out a small velvet box. "This belonged to my grandmother. She specifically requested that it be given to my wife." Inside was the most beautiful ring I had ever seen, a large diamond surrounded by smaller emeralds. When he placed it on my finger, it fit perfectly. "It's beautiful," I said, completely sincere. "It suits you." He paused, still holding my hand. "Nora, are you sure about this? Even now, if you have any doubts?" "No," I said quickly. "I am sure. I want this marriage." For a moment, we just looked at each other. There was something in his eyes that I couldn't interpret. Then he stepped back. "I'll see you at the altar." After he left, I sat down heavily. This was not what I had expected. The cold businessman from the photographs was nothing like the gentleman who had just spoken to me. The music changed to the wedding march. It was time. I walked down that aisle slowly, my eyes focused on Omar, who was waiting for me. When our eyes met, he smiled, a genuine smile that made my heart leap. Everything after that became a dreamlike sequence. The imam speaking in Arabic, exchanging rings, vows that were supposed to be empty words but felt charged with possibility. And then Omar leaned in to kiss me. It was supposed to be ceremonial, brief. But when his lips met mine, something unexpected happened. Time seemed to stop. The kiss was gentle but had an intensity that made my whole body respond. When we pulled apart, I saw something in his eyes that was definitely not there before. Confusion, maybe, or surprise. Officially, I was Mrs. Omar Al-Zahir, and as we walked back down the aisle, a terrifying realization hit me. I wasn't acting anymore. I had stopped pretending to feel things, and had started to really feel them. This was supposed to be just a job, but I was starting to fall in love with my fake husband. And that wasn't part of the plan. The reception was held on a magnificent terrace overlooking the ocean. As Omar led me through the guests, introducing me as his wife, I desperately tried to remember that all of this was temporary, but it was hard to maintain that perspective when Omar held my hand with tenderness, when he whispered little jokes in my ear that made me genuinely laugh, when he looked at me as if I were the most precious thing in the world. "You're doing wonderfully," Lena murmured when she managed to get a moment to talk to me privately. "Omar seems enchanted." It was true. Throughout the night, I would catch him watching me with an expression I couldn't fully decipher. There was something deeper there, something that made my stomach churn. The first dance was when things really got complicated. When Omar pulled me into his arms in the center of the floor, I momentarily forgot that hundreds of people were watching us. I forgot that I was wearing someone else's name. All I could focus on was the way he held me, firm but gentle, and the way he looked at me, as if he were trying to solve a complicated puzzle. "You dance beautifully," he said softly. "There's something different about you today," he continued. "I can't quite pinpoint what it is, but you seem more real somehow, more present." My heart raced. "What do you mean?" "In the other meetings we had, you always seemed distant, polite, but distant. Today, you seem completely here." If he only knew how present and invested I was becoming. Maybe it's because today is special. Our wedding day. He smiled, completely transforming his face. Perhaps it is. For the next hour, I was introduced to relatives, dignitaries, business leaders. Everyone was polite, warm, genuinely happy about the marriage. With each compliment, each hug, my guilt grew. These people genuinely cared about Omar, and I was deceiving all of them. Around 11 o'clock, Omar approached me on the terrace where I was looking at the ocean. "Tired?" he asked. "A little. It's been a long day. But a good one, I hope." I looked at him. I really looked. Not as Nora was supposed to look, but as Rachel, as a woman who was quickly falling for a man she was destined to deceive. "Yes," I said softly. "It was very good." We were silent for a few minutes, just watching the waves. It was a comfortable silence. "Nora," he finally said, "I know our marriage didn't start in the most conventional way, but I hope we can build something real together, something that goes beyond our family's expectations." His words hit me like a punch to the gut. He was talking about building a future together, and I was planning to disappear in 2 days. "Omar, I started, but I didn't know how to finish. "You don't have to say anything now," he said. "We have time. We have our whole lives. Our whole lives." If he only knew that our life together would last just 40 more hours. That night, alone in the suite I now shared with Omar, I tried to understand what was happening to me. It was supposed to be simple. Act for 3 days, get the money, go home. But nothing was turning out to be simple. Omar wasn't the cold man I had expected. He was gentle, thoughtful, funny. There were moments where I completely forgot I was acting. And the worst part, I could see that he was genuinely trying to connect with me. There was something in his eyes that suggested he was also feeling the chemistry between us. How could I continue to deceive someone who was being so honest with me? I woke up the next morning with a strange feeling of living in 2 different worlds. Omar had left early for meetings, leaving a note. "Good morning, my wife. See you at lunch. Omar." The word wife made me feel things I had no right to feel. Lena appeared at 9 with the day's schedule. "Today we have some public appearances. An interview for Arabian Luxury magazine, some photos for social newspapers, and then a charity lunch." Each word increased my anxiety. The more time I spent pretending to be Nora, the greater the risk of being discovered. And worse, the greater the risk of me forgetting that I was pretending. During the interview, I managed to stay in character, answering prepared questions about my education in Paris and my plans as Omar's wife. But when the journalist asked, "How did you know Omar was the man for you?" something inside me answered with honesty. From the first moment I looked into his eyes, I said, "I knew he was special. There's a kindness in him that makes me want to be a better person." Those weren't the rehearsed words. They were my own feelings leaking through Nora's mask. The charity lunch was even more challenging. Omar was by my side, charming and attentive. Every time he placed his hand affectionately on my back, every time he smiled at me as if he really loved me, I felt my heart breaking a little more. "You look different today," he murmured in my ear. "More like yourself somehow." That afternoon, Omar surprised me by suggesting a walk on the beach. Just us. No photographers, no schedule. I want to get to know my wife better. We walked barefoot in the sand, and for the first time since this madness began, I felt almost normal. We talked about books, travel, dreams. He told me about his childhood, about the pressure of inheriting a business empire so young. And you? He asked. What was it like growing up overseas? My heart raced. Complicated family, I said vaguely. I'd rather not talk about it. He stopped and turned to face me. Nora, I'd like us to become true partners. That means honesty between us. The irony hit me like a rock. He was asking for honesty from the person who was lying about everything. Omar, I began, what if you found out I'm not exactly who you think I am? Something in his expression changed. Everyone has secrets, Nora. What matters is who you choose to be from now on. Before I could answer, he kissed me. This time it wasn't ceremonial. It was real, intense, full of passion that made me forget where I was and why I was there. Don't say anything now, he said when we pulled apart. Just be here with me in this moment. And I stayed. For a few precious minutes, standing there on the beach with the sun setting, I allowed the fantasy to be real. I was Nora Al-Zahir, wife of the gentlest man I had ever met. But reality has a cruel way of intruding on the most beautiful dreams. That night, after an intimate dinner where Omar and I talked like a real couple, I received a call that changed everything. It was Lena, and her voice was tense. We need to talk. Now. Come down to the lobby in 5 minutes. My blood ran cold. What happened? Just come down. And Rachel? We might have a problem. I met Lena at the hotel bar, looking more worried than I had ever seen her. When I sat down, she wasted no time with formalities. Nora has shown up, she said simply. The words hit me like a slap. What? She called 2 hours ago. She's in a hotel in Vegas, furious to find out someone is taking her place. She's demanding an explanation and threatening to go public with everything. My mind panicked. How did she find out? Some friends saw the wedding photos online and called her. She wasn't really missing. She was just hiding because she didn't want to get married. But when she saw you in her place... Lena paused. She's coming here tomorrow morning. What does this mean for me? It means your performance ends now. You need to disappear before she arrives. Disappear? The word sounded strange. But what about Omar? Won't he find it strange that his wife just vanishes? Lena looked at me with pity. Rachel, you knew from the beginning that this was temporary. Omar will understand when we explain. But I didn't want Omar to understand. I wanted to continue being his wife. The idea of returning to my old life made me feel physically sick. What about my money? You will receive the full amount. You did your job perfectly. Even better than we expected. Omar seems genuinely interested in you. That observation hurt even more. He's a good man. He is? And he deserves the truth, doesn't he? Lena studied me. Unless you're thinking of telling him who you really are? The idea had crossed my mind several times. What if I told him everything? What if I explained about Kai, about my situation? Was there a chance he could understand? It would be crazy, Lena said, reading my thoughts. You're a waitress from LA. He's one of the most powerful men in the Middle East. Even if he didn't hate you for the lie, you live in completely different worlds. She was right. It was crazy. I need one more night, I finally said. To say goodbye properly. Lena nodded. One night. But first thing tomorrow morning, you disappear. I returned to the suite with a heavy heart, finding Omar on the balcony, on the phone in Arabic. When he saw me, his face lit up. Habibi, he said, using the affectionate term that meant, my love. How was your conversation with Lena? Just details about future schedules, I lied, hating every word. That night, lying next to Omar, I stayed awake listening to his breathing and trying to memorize every detail of that moment. His scent, the sound of the ocean, the feeling of security I was experiencing for the first time in my life. In the morning, he kissed my forehead before leaving. Sleep a little longer, my wife. I'll see you at lunch. They were the last words he said to me as Nora. As soon as Omar left, I called Miss Carmen to check on Kai. Rachel, how are you? I'm fine. How's Kai? Great. Want to talk to him? My brother's sweet voice filled my ear. Rachel, are you coming home today? Yes, my love. I'm coming home today. That's good. I have so many things to tell you. My throat tightened. I love you, Kai. I love you too, Rachel. You're the best sister in the world. After hanging up, I allowed myself to cry for a few minutes, to cry for the life I was leaving behind, for the man I was about to betray in the cruelest way possible. Lena arrived at 10 o'clock with simple clothes, jeans, a t-shirt, sneakers. Time to go. The car is waiting. I got dressed quickly, leaving behind all the beautiful dresses, the expensive jewels. The only thing I took was Omar's grandmother's ring, which I couldn't bring myself to take off. You can't keep that, Lena said, noticing the ring. I know, but not yet. As we left the hotel through the back to avoid photographers, I looked back one last time. Somewhere in that building, Omar was in meetings, planning a future with a wife who no longer existed. He's going to hate me, I said as the car drove away. Probably, Lena agreed, not trying to comfort me with lies. But you did what you had to do for your family. 2 hours later, I was back in my East Side apartment, hugging Kai as if I hadn't seen him in years. Ms. Carmen had baked a chocolate cake to celebrate my return, and Kai was radiant. And guess what, Rachel? Ms. Carmen said we'll have money now for me to get that special treatment. Lena had kept her word. The money was already in my account. That's right, my love, I said, hugging Kai tighter. Now we'll be able to do a lot of good things. That night, I sat on our small balcony looking out at LA, stretching out before me. Somewhere, very far away, Omar was discovering that his wife had disappeared, and I was here, with $500,000 in the bank and a broken heart that was worth much more than that. I took off Omar's grandmother's ring and placed it on the bedside table. Tomorrow, I would start using the money to give Kai the life he deserved. Tomorrow, I would try to go back to being just Rachel. But tonight, I allowed myself to remember what it was like to be loved by Omar Al-Zahir, even if it was based on a lie. The next few days passed in a strange haze. Externally, I had resumed my normal routine, working at the coffee shop, taking care of Kai. But internally, I felt like an actress who had left an intense role and couldn't quite disconnect from the character. Kai was radiant with the changes the money allowed. We immediately started the treatment he needed. I enrolled him in a better private school, and we were able to move to a bigger apartment. Seeing the happiness in his eyes should have been enough to justify everything, but every night, when I closed my eyes, I saw Omar looking for me. I wondered if he had felt something real for the 2 days we spent together, or if I had just been another obligation fulfilled. On the second week after my escape, while I was serving coffee at the same coffee shop where it all began, Lena appeared again. My heart raced at the sight of her. "How are you?" she asked, sitting at the same corner table. "Good," I lied. "Kai is loving the new treatment. We got a better apartment. Everything is good." She studied me with those penetrating eyes. "You don't look good." I wasn't good. I was living a divided life, physically present in my reality, but emotionally still trapped in those 2 days as Omar's wife. "How is he?" I asked, unable to resist. "Confused? Angry? Hurt?" Lena paused. "The real Nora has taken your place, but things aren't going as expected." My stomach tightened. "What do you mean?" "She's exactly what you weren't. Cold, calculating, interested only in status and money." Omar noticed the difference immediately. He's been asking questions. "About you." "What kind of questions?" "He wants to know where Nora was for the first 2 days. Why she seemed so different during the wedding. Why she changed so drastically." He's not accepting the explanations we gave. A dangerous part of me filled with hope. Omar had noticed. He cared. "Rachel," Lena said, interrupting my thoughts. "He's investigating. He has private detectives trying to track Nora's movements during the wedding days. It's only a matter of time before they discover the truth." The blood drained from my face. "What does that mean?" "It means you need to disappear. Get out of the country, maybe. Omar Al-Zahir is one of the most powerful men in the world, and you deceived him in the most intimate way possible. If he finds out who you really are, there's no limit to what he can do." "Run?" The idea made me nauseous. "But why? The wedding already happened. Because if he discovers the truth, he can destroy your life, have you arrested for fraud. How much time do I have?" "A few days." maybe a week. His investigators are good. That night, I explained to Kai that we might have to travel again. He was excited, completely oblivious to the danger we were facing. But as the days passed and I tried to organize our escape, a growing anger began to take hold of me. Why should I run? I hadn't hurt anyone intentionally. I had done what I needed to do to save my brother. If Omar discovered the truth, why couldn't he just understand? The answer came in a way I could never have anticipated. It was a rainy Thursday, and I was closing the coffee shop when I saw him. Omar Al-Zahir, standing across the street, looking directly at me through the window. My heart completely stopped. He had found me. For a moment, we just stared at each other across the wet street. He was dressed casually, jeans and a sweater, but he still radiated that natural authority I remembered so well. Slowly, he began to cross the street toward me. I had a moment of pure panic. Should I run? Should I hide? But when he pushed open the coffee shop door and walked in, wet from the rain and more handsome than I remembered, I couldn't move. I just stood there, holding the dish towel with trembling hands. "Hello, Rachel," he said, and his voice was exactly as I remembered it. Deep, controlled, but with something underneath that I couldn't identify. "Omar," was all I could say. "Or should I call you Nora?" There was a bitterness in his voice now. "I'm confused about what name to use for the woman who married me 2 weeks ago." I took a deep breath, trying to find courage. "My name is Rachel Santos, and I can explain." "Can you?" He moved closer, and I could see the pain in his eyes mixed with the anger. "Can you explain how you married me pretending to be someone else? Can you explain how you kissed me, slept in my bed, made me believe that?" He stopped, running a hand through his hair. "Can you explain how you made me feel things for a woman who doesn't even exist?" Tears began to stream down my face. "I didn't want to hurt you. I never wanted to." "You didn't want to?" His voice rose. "You staged an entire wedding. You deceived me in the most intimate way possible. I needed the money." The words came out in a desperate cry. My brother was sick. We had nothing. I was desperate. So this was just about money? Everything that happened between us? "No," I said, and the vehemence in my own voice surprised me. "In the beginning, yes. It was just about the money. But then I met you, and you are, what? Easy to deceive?" "Gentle," I said softly. "You're gentle and generous and I fell in love with you." The silence that followed was deafening. Omar stared at me for a long moment, his expression passing through anger, confusion, and something that looked almost pain. "You fell in love with me," he repeated, as if the words were from a foreign language. "I know I have no right to say that. I know you must hate me. But those 2 days, for me, they were real. My feelings for you were real." Omar turned away, walking to the window and looking out at the dark street. "Do you know what was worse? It wasn't discovering that my wife had disappeared. It was discovering that I missed her. I missed a woman I thought I had known for 2 days. My heart broke a little more. Omar, the real Nora came back, you know. She's there now, being exactly the cold, calculating wife I expected from an arranged marriage. And all I could think about was how you smiled when you thought no one was looking, how you genuinely cared when people talked to me, how you kissed me as if you really wanted to be there." He turned to face me again. "You made me question everything. You made me think that maybe there could be something real in an arranged marriage. And it was all a lie. Not all of it," I whispered. "My feelings weren't a lie."
Since you've been here with me all this time, it means you enjoy our story. So, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next ones. Give this one a like, and tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching from.
"How can I believe anything you say now?" It was a fair question, and I didn't have a good answer. "You can't," I admitted. "I betrayed your trust in the worst way possible. But Omar, that woman you met during our wedding, that was me, not Nora. It was Rachel falling in love with you." We stood there for a long moment, the weight of everything that had happened between us filling the small space of the coffee shop. "Show me," he finally said. "What?" "Your life. Your real life. I want to understand who you really are." It was the last thing I expected him to ask. "Why?" "Because I need to know if any part of you was real. I need to know if I'm losing my mind missing a ghost, or if there was something genuine in what we felt. I looked at this man who had turned my world upside down, who was here in my humble coffee shop asking to see who I really was, and for the first time in 2 weeks, I felt a small spark of hope. "Okay," I said, "but you have to understand. I'm not Nora Al-Mansouri. I'm just Rachel Santos, a waitress, a big sister, and a woman who made a terrible mistake because she was desperate." Omar nodded slowly. "That's the Rachel I want to meet." I took Omar home that night, my heart beating so fast I was sure he could hear it. The bus ride to our apartment was silent, both of us lost in our own thoughts. When we arrived at our simple building on the east side, I saw Omar observe everything with curious but non-judgmental eyes. The peeling walls, the poor lighting, the smell of food mixed with dampness that always permeated the hallway. It was a completely different world from the luxury he was used to. "Kai will be sleeping," I said as I opened the apartment door. "He wakes up early for his new school." Omar entered silently, his eyes scanning our small but clean space. Kai's colorful drawings were taped to the fridge. Our dining table also served as a study table, the old but comfortable sofa. "This is where you live," he said, and it wasn't a question. "This is where we live," I corrected. "Me and Kai." As if he had heard his name, a sleepy voice came from the bedroom. "Rachel? You're home?" "I'm home, my love. Go back to sleep. Can I say goodnight?" I looked at Omar, who nodded. "Of course, Kai." My brother appeared at the bedroom door, rubbing his eyes, wearing superhero pajamas. When he saw Omar, he stopped abruptly, his eyes wide. "Hi," Kai said shyly. "Are you Rachel's friend?" Omar knelt down to be at Kai's height, and his expression completely softened. "Yes, I am. My name is Omar. What's yours?" "Kai. I'm 10 years old." He looked at me and then back at Omar. "You're very tall." Omar smiled, the first genuine smile I had seen since he appeared at the coffee shop. "You think so? Maybe it's because you still have a lot of growing to do. Rachel said that when I grow up, I'll be taller than her. But she's the best sister in the world, so it'll be hard to be better than her at other things." My throat tightened at Kai's natural sweetness. I looked at Omar and saw something changing in his expression as he interacted with my brother. "Your sister must be very proud of you," Omar said gently. "She worries about me a lot. Sometimes I hear her crying at night when she thinks I'm sleeping, but now she's happier because she got a good job, and we can have better things." I felt Omar looking at me, but I couldn't meet his eyes. Kai's innocence was exposing my life in a way that all my explanations couldn't. "Okay, Kai," I said, my voice slightly hoarse. "Now you need to sleep. You have school tomorrow." "Okay. It was nice meeting you, Omar. Can you come have dinner here sometime? Rachel makes the best lasagna in the world." Omar looked at me before answering. "Maybe, Kai. Good night." After Kai went back to his room, Omar and I sat in the small living room, a heavy silence between us. He was processing everything he had seen and heard. "How old was he when your parents passed away?" Omar finally asked. 2 years old. I was 18. I took a deep breath. We didn't have anyone else. Either I took care of him or he would go to an orphanage. And you gave up your youth, your education, everything to raise him. He's my brother. It wasn't a choice. It was what had to be done. Omar was quiet for a long moment. "The treatment he needs, is it expensive?" It was. That's why I stopped, not knowing how to finish the sentence. "That's why you accepted the proposal," he completed, "to give him a chance at a better life." I nodded, tears beginning to form in my eyes. "I know it doesn't justify what I did to you. I know I hurt you, that I betrayed your trust. But when Lena offered me that money, it was the first time I saw a real possibility of giving Kai everything he deserved. And during our marriage, what were you feeling?" "Terror," I said softly. "Terror of being discovered. Terror of messing everything up. But I was also falling in love with you. Every conversation, every kind look, every moment where you treated me as if I were precious. I knew it was dangerous. I knew it was complicating everything, but I couldn't stop. Did you think about telling me the truth?" "Every moment. Especially when you talked about building something real together, about honesty. I wanted so badly to be honest with you, but I was so afraid of losing that happiness, even knowing it was temporary." Omar stood up and walked to the small window that faced the street. You know this is impossible, don't you? Even if I could forgive what you did, we're from completely different worlds. My heart shattered, but I knew he was right. I know. I have responsibilities, expectations, my family, my business, my social position. I can't just... I know, I repeated, my voice almost a whisper. I don't expect anything from you, Omar. I just wanted you to understand that my feelings were real, that the woman you said you missed, she really existed. She was me. He turned to face me, and I saw an intense struggle happening in his eyes. In 2 days, you made me feel more genuinely connected to someone than I had felt in my entire life. How do I deal with that? I don't know, I admitted. But I know you deserve to be happy. If the real Nora doesn't make you happy, the real Nora is exactly what was expected of her. Cold, interested only in status, treating our marriage as a business transaction. He paused, running a hand over his face. And I hate her for not being you. His words hit me like lightning. For weeks I had tortured myself imagining that he was happy with his real life. Knowing that he was also suffering was both liberating and devastating. Omar. No, he said, holding up a hand. Let me finish. You deceived me in the worst way possible. You lied about who you were, married me under false pretenses, made me develop feelings for a fantasy. By all rights, I should hate you. I braced myself for the final blow. But when I look at you now, he continued, when I see where you live, how you raised your brother, when I see the real woman behind the lie, I understand why you did what you did. And that makes me more confused than angry. We stood staring at each other across the small space of my living room, 2 different worlds colliding in a way that shouldn't have been possible. What happens now? I asked finally. Omar was silent for a long moment, looking out the window at the city lights. When he turned back to me, there was something different in his eyes, a decision I couldn't interpret. Now, he said softly, I do something my family will consider completely insane. He walked closer to me, his eyes never leaving mine. I annul my marriage to Nora. My heart stopped. Omar, you can't. I already did, he said, completely surprising me. 2 weeks ago. It caused a huge political scandal. There are billions in contracts at risk. My family is furious. He stopped right in front of me. And I don't regret a thing. But why? Because I can't stop thinking about the woman I met for 2 days. Because every time I look at Nora, all I see is what's missing. Because you showed me that it's possible to feel something real, even in the most impossible circumstances. Tears ran freely down my face. Omar, but we're from different worlds. We were, he corrected. Before, I thought our class difference was an insurmountable obstacle. But after seeing you here, meeting Kai, understanding why you did what you did, I realized that what really matters is not where we come from, but who we choose to be. He took my hands in his. Rachel, I know I made mistakes too. I know I live in a world that might seem impossible to you, but I also know that those 2 days were the most real of my life, and if there's a chance, even a small one, for us to build something true together. Are you sure? I asked, my voice trembling.
If this story kept you hooked until now, just imagine the next ones. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any. Give this one a like, and tell me in the comments where in the world you're listening from right now.
Do you really want to try this? With me? With all the complications, all the differences between our lives? I'm sure I want to try, he said, touching my face gently. This time without lies, without disguises, without deadlines, just Omar and Rachel, seeing if what we feel is real enough to survive in the real world. I thought about everything we were risking. Him, his social position and family expectations. Me, the stability I had finally achieved for Kai and myself. I thought about how difficult it would be to navigate between 2 such different worlds. But then I thought about how I felt when he kissed me at the altar. About how my heart raced when he smiled at me. About how for the first time in my life, I had felt truly loved. Yes, I whispered. I want to try too. When Omar kissed me this time, it wasn't as Nora or as part of a performance. It was as Rachel, the waitress who fell in love with a sheikh and discovered that true love can overcome any obstacle. And as we hugged in my small living room, with Kai's drawings on the wall and the distant sound of the city outside, I knew that our story was just beginning, this time, starting with the truth. 3 months later, when the doorbell rang on a Saturday night and I opened the door to see Omar standing there, not in expensive suits, but in jeans and a simple shirt, holding flowers for me and a wrapped gift for Kai, I knew I had made the right choice. "Hello, Rachel," he said, and when he said my name, it sounded like a promise. "Hello, Omar. Come in. Dinner's almost ready." Our story had started with a lie, but it was blossoming with the most real thing I had ever experienced. True love that had overcome everything that tried to destroy it.